I was recently out of jail. I'm walking down the street. I'm homeless at this point in time. And then out of nowhere, it hits me. The biggest mistake I had made up to this point in my life. Hey guys, and welcome back to another episode of the Underdog Anthem. I'm actually really excited about our discussion today because this is the biggest mistake I made up to the point in my life that everything started to change. And I'm telling you, I wish I would have known this sooner. I wish I would have known this when I was 14, 15, 16. It would have drastically changed all of the pitfalls that I ended up in. But I couldn't figure it out. See, at a young age, I had been fairly successful. 14 years old, I started doing door-to-door sales. By the time I was 16, I was an award-winning sales representative in our company. By the time I was 18, I had a crew to myself. I was managing a crew of salespeople, and I thought I had it made. I was making great money. I was doing really well for myself, which actually ended up taking me down a pretty bad path. And before I knew it, I had gotten myself into trouble with drugs and alcohol, partying all the time, using my money for whatever I wanted, whenever I wanted, and it had gotten me into a ton of trouble. And I had ended up going to jail. I remember I got out of jail and I'm walking down the street, and then out of nowhere, it hits me. The biggest mistake I had been making up to this point in my life. And what I realized was, although I had had success, I was closed-minded. I thought that I knew it all. And see, the lesson that I learned is that I was wrong. I didn't know it all. I thought because I had been successful, because I had achieved something, that it meant that I knew something about sales that other people didn't know. And what it actually was is I just happened to be charismatic. I just happened to have a good skill set, fit for that job, but I could have gone so much further if I had gotten out of this arrogant mentality. See, the interesting thing is after high school, most people aren't gonna read another book. Most people aren't gonna pick up something to study. They're not gonna consume positive content. What they're gonna do is consume entertainment. What makes me feel good? What makes me escape any problems I have, escape anything going on in my life, escape any negative, and how do I chase that instead of how do I chase being better? And the mistake I had made up to that point in my life is thinking that I had enough answers. Thinking that I had enough answers to make the next right decision, to make the next sale, to make the next change in my life, to get to that next place. But the thing is that I actually didn't know anything. And it wasn't until I acknowledged this and accepted it and actually embraced it that my life started to change. See, I was successful in business, but my relationships were awful. I had ruined almost every relationship in my life. I was looking at losing everything. I had no self-esteem, I had no self-worth, no self-confidence. I was constantly chasing something else to fill the void. One more episode, one more dessert, one more person, one more thing to fill the void in my life. And although I had financial success, I couldn't figure out any other success in my life. And what happens to people is we end up successful in one area, we end up successful in one microscopic and one minor place in our lives, and then we think for some reason that we've got it figured out. And this is where we start to isolate and we start to think, no, I should be the one telling others. I should be the one doing this. And the truth of the matter for me is, I am constantly consuming content. Constantly consuming new podcasts, constantly consuming new YouTube channels, new books, new blogs. I want to learn because I realized the biggest mistake in my life is that I hadn't been willing to learn. See, I had a fixed mindset. I thought that things were the way they were and I was just gonna be good at sales. I was just gonna be bad at relationships. I couldn't fix that area of my life. I just should focus on what I'm good at and only do that thing. And instead, what I learned is I could have a growth mindset. and I could start to achieve areas of my life that I had formerly thought impossible. Now I'm happy to say I have an incredible marriage. I get to be a dad of 2 wonderful young ladies, and I'm getting to raise them up into a mindset, into a self-confidence that I didn't have, because I'm trying to teach them at a young age that we have to constantly question, we have to constantly learn, we have to constantly grow. Because as soon as you think that you know everything about something is as soon as you're doomed to failure. As soon as you think that you know everything about a certain business, about a certain subject, about a certain area of life is when you're doomed to failure. I'll tell you, now I'm great with relationships, but I listen to the book How to Win Friends and Influence People for 30 minutes every single night. I've done the book over 50 times. Not because I have to, but because there's always something new inside of the book that draws me closer to my relationships. And it's interesting that the closed-minded kid that was in jail, that's walking down the street, that's homeless, broken, beat up, doesn't know where the next meal is coming from, doesn't know how he's going to get through this phase in life. It's interesting how that guy went from successful in one area of his life to now what I consider successful in multiple areas of my life. I have great friends, great relationships. I have good business, good work ethic, good self-discipline, great self-confidence. I've achieved incredible things that I never thought possible. I've ran coast to coast, Jacksonville, Florida to San Diego, California. I've ran marathons. I've jumped out of airplanes. I've been to remote parts of the world, and I've enjoyed exploring and adventuring and getting to experience a life that I never thought possible. And I'm telling you, the biggest mistake that I made early on was not being willing to learn. Not being willing to learn. And there is a wonderful book on this specific topic. It's called Mindset. And it talks about the difference between having a fixed mindset or a growth mindset. A mindset that says, hey, I did make a mistake. I did make a failure. I did mess up, but I can do better. And that's what actually changed my life, because success isn't just naturally being good at something. Success is failing, learning, growing, changing course, acting again. See, but what I did early on is I was only good at the only few things that I was willing to try at. And I never wanted to try at anything I thought I would fail at. And now success has come because I've tried and failed at relationships. I've tried and failed at physical fitness. I've tried and failed at self-discipline. I've made mistakes. Warren Buffett says to double the rate of success, you have to double the rate of failure. And then I would add on and ask yourself, what is there to learn? How do I need to grow? How do I need to change? What is it that I need to understand? Because I made a mistake somehow and I need to change course. And I'm telling you, if we could wrap our minds around this one thing, that we in the next 5 years are going to be the sum total of the books that we've read and the people that we've surrounded ourselves with. My life changed when I started surrounding myself with people who knew more than I did. And I started consuming books, reading books, listening to podcasts. I started reading books about business, books about education, books about philosophy, books about psychology. And it changed my life. Right now, I'm going through a book called The E-Myth Revisited. And I just finished a book called Unoffendable. And I'm trying to constantly become a better person. And I'm telling you, this growth mindset is the number one thing that I could tell any single individual to adopt, and they will become successful. Because as soon as you realize that you can grow, you start to actually try to grow. I would encourage you guys, wherever you're at right now, start asking yourself that question. What do I need to learn? I don't know what that looks like for you. I don't know what you're going through, what you're feeling caught up on. I don't know what you're missing. I don't know what you're falling short in. But what I do know is that if you are failing, there is something to learn. There's something to grow in. There's something to be better. And I'm telling you, one of the most incredible feelings in life is failing at something and then going back later to conquer that thing because you've learned and you've grown and you've become a better person. See, I'm a different man than the one that was walking down the street homeless and broken and out of jail. See, I was an underdog, and now my underdog story is used to influence and impact people. I get to speak at different conferences. I get to speak at schools. I get to go around and tell people the story of my life, of how I went from underdog to where I am today, solely because I took on this growth mindset and I was willing to learn. I was willing to be better. Let me ask you guys to do this. Go ahead and drop a comment below. What is that thing in your life that you failed at and then later on you came back and you conquered? And how rewarding was that? Let me know in the comments. Like right now, stop, go down to the comments and drop a comment and let me know what was something in your life that you felt like you could never accomplish and then you overcame it. So go ahead and do me a favor, go ahead and smash the like button for me. Helps with the YouTube algorithm. And if you haven't subscribed, click subscribe and make sure the bell is on. I just recorded the interview I talked to you guys with my multi-millionaire mentor, Tom Pace. And I am so excited about that content coming out. So make sure you get notified when it does come out. Working on editing it right now, getting that up to par for you guys. I am so thankful that you've taken the time to join us on this underdog journey, and I cannot wait to see you next time.